In the harsh lands of medieval Scandinavia, justice was swift, brutal, and absolute. The Vikings, renowned for their seafaring prowess and warrior culture, maintained order through a legal system as unforgiving as the frozen fjords themselves. The Viking Age wasn't just about raids and exploration. At home, these Norse societies operated under strict legal codes, where punishment served as both justice and deterrent. When someone broke the sacred laws of the clan, the consequences were designed to be memorable, not just for the criminal, but for everyone who witnessed their fate. Perhaps no Viking punishment strikes more terror into the modern imagination than the blood eagle, reserved for the most heinous crimes, particularly the murder of a king or betrayal of one's lord. This execution was as much ritual as it was punishment. Historical accounts describe the process. The condemned would be placed face down, and the executioner would cut along either side of the spine, breaking the ribs away from the backbone. The ribs would then be pulled outward to resemble eagle's wings, and the lungs extracted and placed upon the victim's shoulders. While some historians debate whether this punishment was actually practiced or merely described in sagas as literary embellishment, the mere threat of such a fate would have been enough to deter even the boldest criminals. The blood eagle represents the intersection of Viking justice and religious sacrifice. It wasn't just about killing, it was about offering the criminal's life to Odin in a manner that honored the gods while terrifying enemies. In Viking society, community was survival. To be cast out from that community was often worse than death. Outlawry came in two forms: lesser outlawry, 3 years of banishment, and full outlawry, permanent exile. A full outlaw, known as a forest goer, lost all legal protection. Anyone could kill them without consequence. They couldn't receive help from family or friends, couldn't enter settlements, and couldn't practice their trade or profession. Imagine losing not just your home, but your very identity. An outlaw was legally dead while still breathing, a ghost wandering the wilderness until actual death claimed them. The psychological torment was intentional. Vikings understood that humans were social creatures. Strip away their community, and you stripped away their humanity. The famous outlaw Grettir the Strong survived 20 years in exile, but his saga describes the slow deterioration of his mind, plagued by dreams, paranoia, and the constant fear of betrayal. For crimes of cowardice, witchcraft, or sexual deviance, Vikings employed drowning, but not the quick submersion you might expect. The condemned would be weighted down with stones and thrown into bogs, marshes, or specially constructed pits. Archaeological evidence from Scandinavia has uncovered numerous bog bodies showing signs of ritual drowning. These weren't accidents. They were executions carried out with methodical precision. The choice of location was significant. Bogs were considered liminal spaces, neither fully water nor land, perfect for disposing of those who had violated natural order. The acidic bog water would preserve the bodies, serving as a lasting reminder of Viking justice. Modern analysis of bog bodies reveals that many victims were held underwater for extended periods, suggesting the drowning was deliberately prolonged to maximize suffering. Some crimes demanded that nature itself serve as executioner. Criminals might be staked out on cliff tops or beaches, left exposed to the elements, wild animals, and the relentless Baltic weather. This punishment was reserved for oath-breakers and those who violated sacred trusts. The symbolic meaning was clear. Just as they had broken their bonds with society, nature would break their bonds with life. Historical accounts describe cases where criminals were tied to rocks at low tide, left to drown slowly as the waters rose, or staked out in winter storms to freeze to death over several days. The prolonged nature of these deaths served multiple purposes. It gave the condemned time to reflect on their crimes, allowed the community to witness the consequences of lawbreaking, and demonstrated the inexorable nature of Viking justice. Not all Viking punishments ended in death. For lesser crimes, theft, assault, or adultery, the justice system employed various forms of mutilation, designed to permanently mark the criminal and limit their ability to reoffend. Common mutilations included hand removal for thieves, nose slitting for adulterers, ear cropping for false witnesses, tongue removal for those who broke oaths through speech, and eye removal for spies and scouts who betrayed their people. These punishments served as permanent badges of shame. In a society where reputation was everything, visible scars immediately identified someone as a criminal, making it impossible to start fresh in a new community. Skeletal remains from Viking-era cemeteries show evidence of healed amputation wounds, confirming that many criminals survived their punishments and lived with the consequences for years. Viking law wasn't about rehabilitation, it was about maintaining cosmic balance. They believed that crimes disturbed the natural order, and only severe punishment could restore equilibrium. The public nature of these punishments was crucial. Justice wasn't just about punishing the guilty, it was about reinforcing social norms and demonstrating the consequences of transgression to the entire community. Vikings lived in a shame-based culture rather than a guilt-based one. The worst fate wasn't feeling bad about what you'd done, it was having everyone know you'd done it and seeing you punished for it. These brutal punishments reflected a society where survival depended on absolute adherence to social codes. In the harsh environment of medieval Scandinavia, there was little room for second chances or rehabilitation. While we may recoil at the severity of Viking justice, it's important to understand these punishments within their historical context. They weren't expressions of sadism, but calculated responses to the challenges of maintaining order in a decentralized, warrior-based society. The Vikings believed that the severity of punishment should match not just the crime, but its potential impact on community survival. In their world, mercy was a luxury they couldn't afford. The Viking Age ended over 1,000 years ago, but the echoes of their justice system remind us that law and punishment have always reflected the societies that create them. In studying their brutal codes, we better understand both their world and our own.